Fact remains that we've had a rare occasion of a sitting chief minister being arrested. Many people are of the view that it is driven entirely by politics, but it's very important to understand what is happening with the Enforcement Directorate. Most cases, the Enforcement Directorate acts against people because there are cases against them. And there are cases against them because there is some corruption scandal. They're just going off and arresting people. There are cases, there are investigations. The opposition has always claimed that when people move to the BJP, and they've given specific examples, selectivity or selective action against some people and going slow on action against other people. A fifth summons that the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has not responded to, but the ED's selective action is a cause for concern. The Enforcement Directorate's arrest of now former Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren has created a stir, and many people are of the view that it is driven entirely by politics, and there are even some people who have gone so far as to suggest that he is innocent. I'm not here to speak about whether he is innocent or not. This is a matter that the courts will have to rule on. But it's very important to understand what is happening with the Enforcement Directorate, because there has been a lot of talk of what the Enforcement Directorate has been doing, especially over the last 2-3 years. In most cases, the Enforcement Directorate acts against people because there are cases against them. And there are cases against them because there is some corruption scandal. In most of these scandals, investigations take time, but it is not that they're just going off and arresting people. There are cases, there are investigations. In some cases, there is evidence. And they go out and they arrest people. But it's very important to qualify their behavior. You definitely see a pattern in how the ED works. There are cases that they pursue, there are cases that they go slow on. For instance, the opposition has always claimed that when people move to the BJP, and they've given specific examples, including the Assam Chief Minister, including people in Maharashtra from the NCP, that when people move over to the BJP or to parties that are allied with the BJP, which are part of the NDA, the investigation against them goes slow. The charges are not dropped, the cases probably remain, but you don't hear too much of it. And this is actually a valid claim. There is substance in what the opposition parties are claiming. So while the Enforcement Directorate cannot be faulted for its action against corruption, because they should go out and act against corrupt people, irrespective of whether that person is a commoner or a businessman or a politician, even a chief minister, you can definitely fault them for what appears to be selectivity or selective action against some people and going slow on action against other people. There is a second aspect to this, which is again equally important, which is to ensure that the process itself doesn't become the punishment. And between the ED and between some of the courts at least, and in some cases even the constitutional courts, one does get the impression that the process itself is the punishment, because even when the investigation is complete, even when there is no flight risk, people are not given bail. This despite the fact that the Supreme Court repeatedly keeps saying that bail has to be the norm and jail has to be the exception, but even the Supreme Court itself doesn't always follow this. And finally, there is a third aspect to this. The best way for the Enforcement Directorate to really disprove all its critics is to ensure a quick completion of the investigation and to secure a conviction. And on this, its record is very, very mixed, right? And it's not a very, very heartening record, both in terms of the duration that it takes and in terms of its ability to secure a conviction. And these are issues that it needs to address, but the fact remains that we've had a rare occasion of a sitting chief minister being arrested, and then of course he had to resign. And it's given the fact that in Delhi now there is a fifth summons that the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has not responded to, it's quite possible that you could see more such action by ED going forward. Is all of this related to politics? The selectivity would seem to suggest that the opposition parties do have a legitimate grouse, but at the same time, given what is happening in the opposition camp, it's clear to most people that the BJP doesn't really need the crutch of the Enforcement Directorate to win elections. They're anyway in a strong enough position to win elections on their own steam. The model that they have, which is a combination of development, welfare and Hindutva, seems to be working very well for them. Did extremely well in the last round of assembly elections. The budget shows the confidence of a party that seems pretty sure that it is coming back to power in this summer's general election. So the BJP doesn't really need the crutch of any of the enforcement agencies to come back to power. So that particular aspect needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. But the ED's selective action is a cause for concern, and that is something that the agency would do well to address.